Welcome back, everybody. So glad you could be here with me today. Walter here at the workbench, making shavings. It's what I do. So, in a continuation of the discussion about dovetails, I got to thinking what my earliest recollection of the discussion of dovetails was. So, this whole woodworking, hand tool woodworking, and um, traditional woodworking movement began, I would say, in the 1970s. It may have gone back just a little bit further into the 1960s with some of the, how shall we say, um, the free love, back to the earth, hippie movement. Because people didn't want to be part of the system. So what I did was I went and I got some of my books. Now this is only a tiny fraction of my books. And I got to thinking, when did I first experience dovetails in literature? So this book would not have had anything to do with literature, but it's called Harvesting Timber Crops from 1931 to 1952. This was a great book to learn how trees were harvested. So I highlighted here, if possible, trees should generally be felled parallel to the direction of skidding. And there's a lot of scribbles and underlining. The term harvesting implies the cutting of some product that can be used to supply the needs of people. Well, that makes sense. This book, Timbers for Woodwork. This was written 1969. So in here, it talks about timbers, how they are measured, standing, how trees are milled and converted into timbers and boards, and so on. It talks about seasoning and the conversions of timber. So I'm thinking a lot of this was from the post-World War II era. Look at this book, Advanced Woodwork and Furniture Making by John L. Firer. How about the date? When was this printed? Do 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 do. Do 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 do. 1954. Now this book goes into all the tools. And granted, the furniture styles were different back then. But selecting lumber by stock size. Talk about the measurement of lumber. Plywoods. Hand saws. There's your workbench. Basic workbench. And here it shows a back saw, hand planes, block planes, router planes, a brace, a what we call an egg baiter drill. Then it starts talking about electric drills and augers, electric drills and augers, and so on and so forth. Chisels, marking gauges. This is an amazing book. Even goes into wood finishing. I just saw something. Talk about the actual joinery. Shoulder joints, butt joints, tongue and groove, plain edge, dowel edge, butt on edge, so on and so forth. Dowel joints, mortise and tenon, rabbet and dado, plain dado, dovetail dado, blind dado. And then it goes into miters and how to reinforce miters. And it talks about half laps. And there's your dovetails. So this is 1954. These are unimportant. But this one, this was one of the Bibles. Cabinet making and millwork. Fire and Bennett. (1967) was the first copyright, and then 1970. So in here, you can find everything and anything you wanted to know, including machines and hand tools. Even some wood identification. So enough of reminiscing down memory lane. These books, more than likely, are available at your local public library. The nice thing about old books is they may give you some insight as to how to use hand tools. But I think for those of us born 1950s, 1960s, maybe into the 70s, I believe there were a few key public figures who brought the craft forward to us. Of course, we had James Krenov, Dale Nish, Thomas Moser. He was critical in the shaker style and in chair making. And then Roy Underhill came on the scene. And from Roy Underhill, it kind of evolved into more machine woodworking with Narm Abrams. So James Krenov, Roy Underhill, Dale Nish, and then with Fine Woodworking magazine, they would visit woodworkers all over the place, like Christian Bexvort. And I'll be bringing more of these old books out. But what was your first experience into someone demonstrating dovetailing? Now, my favorite, and I've met him and I've sat and broke bread with him and discussed different things, but Frank Klaus, right? Frank Klaus could do a dovetail what, in 2 minutes? And then everyone after Frank, okay, they're riding on his coattails. He was the king of dovetails for the longest period of time. And he's sort of gone quiet now. He is, he's older than me, and he may just want to be left alone. Who else? Okay, Paul Sellers. Paul Sellers from the United Kingdom. David Charlesworth. Trying to think of some of the old timers. What I'll do is, as I bring down my original copies of Fine Woodworking, we'll be able to look at some of those articles from, it's got to be, I was a charter member of Fine Woodworking magazine, so I have the first printing. That was the 80s. I'm pretty sure it was either late 70s or early 80s. But then you had the companies like what I mentioned once before. You had the Constantines and the Garrett Wade and Woodcraft, who were promoting the hand tool craft. So I look forward to seeing your comment down below explaining to us who your first encounter with hand tool woodworking and dovetails in particular. Then there were the schools that opened up. Some in the southeast, some in the northeast. You have up in Boston, you have the, what's the name of that school? The Bennett School. Good old Tommy Mack. You know, Tommy Mack, he went there. I love this plane. I shouldn't use the word love. I like this plane a lot. It is the most annoying plane because it shouldn't work. Look how big that mouth is. You know, one day I might cut a patch and close that mouth. Nah, we'll keep using it the way it is. I'll make another one. So that's about it for this one, everybody. I'm so looking forward to hearing what you remember as to your first introduction to woodworking. Don't mention the more modern makers. I'm talking about the older guys, the ones who influenced the modern makers. You know, we've got good old Rob Cosman out there, who's been around a long time. He was influenced a lot by some makers over in the UK. I would have loved to have met some of the old timers, the ones who were getting paid by the piece, not by the hour, not by the job, not by the total. They were getting paid by the piece. They had to make so many boxes a day or they didn't eat. I hope you found something useful, helpful, maybe entertaining. Like, subscribe, and share. Go out in your shop. Go make some shavings. Walter out.